Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Retro Warriors episode 342. Woo! As always, I'm your host, Justin Baker, and as always, I'm joined by resident old bastard Chris Saturn.
Can you tell it's the second show of the night? I bet you can tell it's the second show of the night.
We've been recording since 8.
Yeah.
How do we record for like 6 hours but only put out 2 one-hour shows? Like, what are we doing?
Okay, last episode was a bit long.
Like, if I was our manager and I was managing us, and like, I'd be like, what are y'all doing? You were in the booth for 7 hours. You made one show about Gradius. It's 49 minutes long. I'm like, what is happening in there?
What do you mean you have 45 minutes of uncut content just talking about peanut butter?
Yeah, that's how I'd say peanut butter, too. Peanut butter. Welcome to the show. This is a little late. We're a little loosey-goosey. It's fine.
Yeah, we got this.
I've been playing some NES.
Yeah.
As I said in the previous show, we all have COVID.
You didn't introduce who either of us were, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I did. I said, it's me, Justin, you, Saturn. You got it.
Done. Perfect.
We'll do it live. We all have COVID right now. And we seem to be getting over it, and it's is what it is.
Yeah. I wish you all well.
The wonders of breakthrough cases.
Right.
But I had put I have a little CRT with a built-in VCR, and I put it in my daughter's room at the foot of her bed.
Yeah.
So she could watch tapes, because she had has a big stack of Disney tapes.
Right.
So she could watch tapes because she was running high fever for a long time. And for several hours, it was like that kind of like dangerous, like we need to go to the ER kind of high.
Right.
And it's just easier than having to do, because she has a little Amazon Fire Kids version tablet. And it's just kind of easier than that. And I don't have to worry about her going on YouTube.
Right.
Because she has the YouTube Kids, but there's still some weird shit on it.
It's true.
And I had put it there, and she's decided she wants to keep it there.
Fair.
And she has somehow, thus far, resisted all urges to watch tapes after she's supposed to be in bed.
Oh.
Meaning she's a better person than I am, because I like immediately did that. Like day one, I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna follow that rule.
Right. Same here.
And the other day, I put my NES in there. I was like, hey, do you want a video game on it? And she said, sure. And I go and I get it, and I put my NES in there because, one, I've got Ninja Turtles games on it, and the kid loves Ninja Turtles.
That's good. And
2, I got a Game Genie, so she won't die.
Right.
Because that's her problem, is she gets real stressed out and doesn't want to die. It's very existential.
Does she also hit the buttons with the force of 10,000 suns like you do? She take after old man like that?
She will, like, so she pretend she's playing Mario.
Uh-huh.
I'll be like, all right, you need to walk over there, and she'll have the controller laying flat on the bed, and she'll push one pointer finger down on the right side of the D-pad.
That's one way to do it.
And then I'm like, all right, you need to jump. She'll take one hand completely off, take the other hand and push the single button. She treats everything like it's an arcade stick.
Oh, okay.
Which is why she plays everything with an arcade stick.
That's fair.
Because for whatever reason, arcade sticks make sense to her. Gamepads, she cannot grok them.
Well, do you have an NES advantage for her then?
Of course I do. Of course I have an advantage. I haven't showed it to her. I was trying to get her used to the gamepad thing, but it wasn't nothing doing. So she had that, and of course she's 6, so she was extremely excited to play a Ninja Turtles game for all of 20 minutes,
right?
Which is like 4 hours in kid time, so that's pretty good.
Yeah.
But now, whenever I'm in her room, like playing with her or doing activities or hanging out or whatever, there's an NES hooked up, and I'm like, how convenient. So I've been laying in my daughter's pink canopied princess bed playing Nintendo.
Nice.
for this week.
Like an adult.
While we hang out with her.
Nice.
And so I've been just man, I love the NES.
Yeah.
It's a good system. It's got good games.
It's true.
She has a hard time because she's like, I want to play a game where there's no fighting, and I'm like, well, honey, it was the 80s. Everyone was fighting. Everyone was kung fu fighting.
You have Deja Vu. You got Uninvited. Might be a little much for a 6-year-old though.
Yeah, might be. So I've mostly been playing it. So I've been playing a bunch of NES.
Princess Tomato in the Salad Kingdom. It's a good one.
I don't have that one. I assume it's $900 like all NES games right now. So, my other thought was I was dragging this CRT and this NES and this stack of games in there, like I've always done my whole life, not even thinking about it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, as I was hooking it up, I was like, shit. This is like many hundreds of dollars worth of retro game stuff now.
Right.
Just a little stack of games in a little CRT in good condition. I was like, oh. And I had that moment where I was like, well, like if something gets broken, it might be more expensive than I want to spend to fix it.
Right.
And then my next thought was, how is a 6-year-old going to break an NES and a CRT? So it's probably fine.
Yeah, at this point, if it survived this long.
Yeah. So yeah, I've been doing that. I've also I picked up some of the stuff on the Xbox backward compatible sale that they're having right now.
It was a weird sale.
It is a very weird sale. It's got some stuff in there that looks like it's just DLC for backward compatible games, but then the games that go to them aren't there.
Well, there's also some games that are disc only that are listed in that sale. So, like, it's listed there, and you click on it, but then it says this game is not available for separate purchase. And then some of the games that were listed in the sale were full price. but it wasn't all backwards compatibility titles. There was some sort of selection there. I just don't know what it was.
I don't know what it was either.
Yeah.
I got Gun Valkyrie, Crazy Taxi, Time Splitters 2, and Conan. And I started with Conan because I like Conan the Barbarian, and I've never played the Conan game on. I think it's a 360 game.
Yeah.
And it's fun. It's a hack and slash. You're Conan. You kill things with a sword, and you don't wear a shirt. So it's everything I wanted it to be and more.
I realized the other day that if a movie or a book or a game or a comic book, if the cover of it is just dude without a shirt looking like he's yelling, that's going to turn me away every time. That's enough to make me not want to engage in that media. Like somebody has to sell that one on,
because that's more for me.
Yeah,
he's not always yelling. Sometimes he's looking grim.
That's true.
Or looking serious.
Yeah.
He's rarely just having a good old time, though.
Right.
I'll give you that one.
Show me the Conan game where he's dressed in a suit and drinking a martini on the cover. I'll give that one a try.
You're thinking of James Bond, I think.
Shit.
Is what classic mix-up.
Wait, hold on. Which one works for MI6?
That would be James Bond. Yeah,
you sure that's not Conan the Barbarian?
I checked his Wikipedia, and it's. I know. I could have sworn Conan the Barbarian, Conan the Cimmerian, King of Aquilonia, used to work for the British government. I think. I'm pretty sure.
Which one is Conan the Good Samaritan?
That's a different Conan.
Oh, okay. That's Conan O'Brien.
But that's it. Just NES. I'm hoping to get in some time with Gun Valkyrie, because it's one of those games I always meant to check out, but was never really. People weren't like, "Oh, it's amazing!"
Right.
It was just like, "Oh, that's a good game. You can check out sometime."
I spent longer than I wanted to trying to set up a Plex server.
Oh, you were struggling.
Yeah. So I wanted a way to watch live TV on all the TVs in my house.
Yep. Plex will do it
without having to have antennas in every room. And with hopefully sharing a DVR pool. That was the ultimate goal.
Yeah, that's Plex up and down.
And then I learned that Plex makes you pay them money if you want access to DVR.
Oh, yeah.
But you can at least watch the live TV without it. So I thought I would at least try it to see how the picture quality is.
Yeah.
And it's fine. However, they updated the Shield to Android 11. And apparently the Android 11... So the Plex TV app hard crashes Android 11, sends a Linux kernel panic.
Oh boy!
And causes the entire system to crash. So that's currently not a great option. So then I started looking at alternatives, and I found several alternatives to Plex that will let me stream live television throughout my house. However, none of them work with a USB TV tuner.
Oh no!
They all require a network TV tuner like an HD Home Run.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, why not just get an HD Home Run and just use the HD Home Run app on every TV in my house? So now I'm just upset at this Plex server that I set up. and I'm trying to find other reasons why I would have set it up at this point. I'm just like struggling. I'm like ripping Blu-rays that I have. I'm like, what if I want to watch this on a different TV?
I have to say your experience with Plex kind of mirrors my own. In that good. It was all this effort. I set it all up. I did all this shit, and then I just didn't use it because it just it did everything, but none of it did none of it as convenient as an alternative.
Right. And that's the thing. I just want an alternative to watch TV, and I really don't want to have to buy one of those network TV tuners. I just want to use this USB one that I have. But until they fix this Plex app, and even then, I'll only have live TV. I won't have DVR, so I'll have to figure something out. But
it's frustrating that I feel like for a couple years there, like 2018 kind of to now, there's been this sort of push, this little pushback on streaming by a lot of people that's like, hey, man, just hook up an antenna. You'll get between like 10 and 50 channels.
Yeah.
Because, and I know a lot of people, especially people our age and older that grew up with regular television.
Right.
And it's weird to think there's a whole generation that's kind of growing up without like
it's true, yeah,
cable or even antenna television.
Yeah.
But for a lot of people our age, it's very normal to want to have a TV on in the background because we always did growing up. I mean, there was always a TV on in your house.
Sometimes you just want to watch The Price is Right.
And so it's weird to me that there's this pushback and there's this kind of move like, hey, antenna's still out there, but there are no real convenient options for it yet.
Yeah, I mean, HD Home Run is if you're willing to invest the money in it.
Right, but it's expensive, yeah. I would call high cost an inconvenience. That's inconvenient to me that it costs a lot of money. Because the whole point of going antenna is that
save money.
It's on your antenna.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you're just using one television in your home, it is cheap. Just go pick up a $10 antenna, plug it in, and go to town.
Yep.
But no, it's funny you mention not watching TV growing up, because I was talking to my nephew about all the celebrities that passed over the last few weeks.
Yeah.
And I was like, I guess I'm reaching that age that the celebrities that I grew up watching, like Bob Saget and Betty White and everything are unfortunately starting to pass. And I was like, what? Do you watch TV? What celebrities do you watch?
Yeah.
And he was like, YouTubers.
Yep.
And I'm trying to think of what it'll be like when that's the celebrity of the future. And I'm not ready to picture that yet.
Honestly, it's going to be the same fucking shit, man.
Probably, yeah. It'll be the same TMZ, just following different people.
When it matures a little bit, they're going to have their own version of all the different award ceremonies. Right. TMZ is going to be following YouTubers. Yeah, it's going to be the same shit, man.
Pretty much. Anyway, back to good stuff. I did, inspired by Guy, I went back and started playing the Tomb Raider reboot again.
Yes.
With aspirations to actually finish it this time.
Yeah. The first one, to be clear.
Correct. Yeah, the one that is just called Tomb Raider. Which
I started that one a couple times and had a good time, but then when I quit playing it, I was just like, I don't feel like it.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. I think I'm about halfway through right now, and I'm still enjoying it. I'm enjoying it enough that I want to finish it this time. Which last time I got distracted by something. I don't remember what it was. I did. I had paused the game at one point, and I don't remember what I was distracted by, mail or something going on outside. And I glanced up at the screen and for some reason had this epiphany that the title is one awkward space away from becoming Tom Raider. And I was like, well, that's useless information.
It's Laura Croft's brother, Tom Raider.
Tom Raider is the game where you just braid Tom's hair.
I like that basically you just you invented a word joke and you're like, I can't find a good context to tell this, so I'm just going to explain the joke.
Yeah, I just have to explain.
Because I need it to be in the world.
Yes, I needed someone else to hear it.
Yeah.
But no, it's fun. I'm digging it.
That's good.
Yeah.
Let's do some news.
Yes, sir.
Xbox Live servers for the Xbox 360 versions of Halo 3, Halo 4, and Halo Reach have been disabled. Much to the chagrin of people who are not playing on the Master Chief Collection.
Right. If you haven't yet picked up an Xbox One or PC, then that would be a problem.
Unfortunate.
Yeah.
Humble subscription service discontinues support for Mac and Linux games, forcing us to once again ask why. Yeah. Why did IGN ruin this?
They also killed the Android app a few months ago. So you can't even get... Well, you can still get to the Android games you might have bought through Humble years ago when they still offered them. But one, they never updated any of them. So it's the ancient versions of those games. And two, you have to download them from their website.
And you mentioned this a little while back, or actually a couple days ago in the Discord. You were like, what exactly is Humble about offering discounts on Ubisoft games and Activision games?
Yeah.
Where is the Humble Bundle used to be this thing of like, here's this weird collection of shit that you probably haven't heard of.
Right.
And now it's just another storefront that's removing features.
Yeah, it was, back in the day, it was, here is some games you probably haven't heard of, and we will accept literally any amount of money for them, and then give that money to charity if you would like. That was humble. That was humility. Now they're just selling Grand Theft Auto and Far Cry, and I have a hard time figuring out where the name comes in now.
Now, granted, I'm on their site right now, and I'm looking at their three banner titles for this month for Humble Bundle. It's Iron Harvest 1920, Mafia Definitive Edition, and Project Winter. Which I would say are definitely smaller than the next tier down, which is Monster Hunter Rise and Hitman 3.
Mafia is Take-Two Interactive.
Okay, never mind. All right, two out of the three. It just feels like they just want to be another digital marketplace, but then they keep removing shit, and you're like, well, you can't have it both ways. You either are fun. Well, I guess you could be Epic Games, and you can't have it both ways. You can be non-functional and still rake in lots of money.
Well, so far as I know, this current announcement is just regarding their subscription service, not their sales.
It's still frustrating.
Yeah,
I mean, it's frustrating.
Yeah.
PS1 and Saturn watches have been added to Japanese capsule machines. This is how starved for cool shit we are that we're reporting on the contents of Japanese gashapon machines.
But they're cute. They're really cute watches.
Where we are. They look like one of those things that I would love to get and I would never fucking wear because it's one of those like shitty kid digital watches where it's just literally just the time.
Yeah.
Just that's it. Just four digits.
Teeny tiny digits in the middle of a giant face. It's the dumbest thing. The PS1 has Everybody's Golf in it. Is the game in there, and that's adorable. I don't know
why. Microsoft has confirmed that production on all Xbox One consoles ended at the end of 2020.
Yeah.
So it's been a minute.
I think we all kind of knew that. But
I think we all suspected it.
Yeah, for some reason, everybody's reporting it like it's news. But it is. It makes sense. The Series S pretty much filled that void as far as affordable level Xboxes.
Yeah. Sega has trademarked the name and logo for Sega NFT.
Now, hold on. They said they wouldn't do that if we thought it was a scam. And you and I both explicitly said it was a scam.
What I don't understand. No, what they said was they're not going to do it if it's, quote, a money-making scheme.
Yeah.
What else would it be? I can't even.
I'll just ask Konami. They'll tell you all about it.
I can't fucking figure out what they fucking thought it was.
I don't know.
What did you think it was, Sega?
There's no answer for this.
What the fuck, man?
They maybe
I'm going to start making NFTs of companies saying that they're not going to do NFTs, and I'm going to sell them.
Nice.
And I'm going to make dozens. I warned everyone before. I'm going to keep saying it. NFTs aren't going anywhere. They're going to be everywhere and everything from every company because it is literally just selling
money.
It's digital assets, JPEGs, and these companies are fucking laden with them.
Oh, yeah.
Just the amount of still images that a company like Sega owns that they could put into an NFT will make them billions. Make them billions right now.
Do you think, and this is getting slightly off topic, do you think in 15, 20 years after some people have had time to look back on it and maybe some governments throughout the world have started to look into regulation and whatnot, people might look back at this era and be like, maybe we went too far too fast with crypto and NFTs and ruined everything?
I will tell you that I definitively think that the public opinion will not be that. I think there are... Because here's the thing, this shit doesn't work if people aren't buying in. right? Multi-level marketing schemes don't work if people don't buy in. You got to get people buying in.
Right.
And much like a multi-level marketing scheme, someone somewhere is making a lot of money.
Right.
And you can look at that person and go, well, look at this fucking person. He's selling acai berries or whatever, and he's making a ton of cash.
Just look at Konami here. They're selling Simon Belmont gifts.
And so then you think, well, I can make cash doing that. I know how to sell Cutco knives. I could do that.
I just wonder if at some point somebody's going to step in and be like, this is too unregulated of a market.
I think here's the problem with that is that NFTs and crypto are so entrenched in the digital world, and by entrenched I mean literally exist solely within it.
Right.
That it would one of two things is they're not going to know how to regulate it.
Right.
Because they don't fucking understand it. And two, if they do regulate it, they're going to lump in a bunch of other shit of other internet-related regulations that they've been trying to push that we don't want.
Yeah, I'm sure of that. I agree with that.
But yeah, tangent aside.
Yeah, sorry.
Come on, Sega, please, for the love of God. Sony renewed the trademark and logo for Psygnosis.
I don't foresee anything coming from this.
I don't. I just imagine it's them protecting
same
property. Asmodee Digital has delisted the digital versions of Pandemic on PC and Xbox, and the Switch version will be delisted in July 2022 for unstated reasons. This is for people that don't know Pandemic, it is a very, very widely celebrated game in the tabletop space.
Yeah.
Extremely successful franchise, lots of different versions of it, very, very beloved, very well known. I'm interested to see why they've yanked it. Maybe it's just an old version. They're going to update it. Maybe I would say
they
that
issued a statement where they said they're very sorry that they're having to pull it, and they tried everything they could to prevent that. But that's as much as they said.
Weird. Very weird. And I wonder if it has something to do with them recently getting purchased by Embracer Group. Maybe there's some rights thing that didn't transfer, or I don't know.
I did see somebody had taken a screenshot of the Game Pass app where it said "Leaving Soon Pandemic." And they were like, man, you guys could have just kicked the pandemic out that easily this whole time.
Can we just fucking end it already? I mean, shit. Come on, Microsoft. Wii U emulator SHMU has gone open source and will support Linux soon. Glad to see that.
Yeah.
Italian Senate Zoom meeting interrupted by Final Fantasy porn. Did you watch the video?
No, I didn't watch the video.
What? You didn't watch the...
I just saw the screenshot and I read the descriptions of it, and I was like, that's enough for me. This is ridiculous.
I mean, I didn't go watch the porn in question, but I watched the video of it happening.
Oh, no, that I didn't see. No, I would like to.
Oh, it was pretty funny.
Nice.
Tool released to make Playdate games from a browser window. So Playdate still exists, apparently, and they want people to make games for it. Right. I don't know how many people have made games for it.
Well, now more can.
Maybe I can also play games in my browser so I don't have to spend that insane amount of money they wanted for a wind-up Game Boy.
Yeah, but how are you going to be able to use the fishing rod?
With the scroll wheel on my mouse. It's functionally the same. Yeah, so that... How much was it? It was like 179 or something, and it was just like just slightly too high for what that is. And anyone that got the Playdate, please come in the Discord and tell me how you like it, because I am curious about it. It was just like 180 for that. I don't know.
Right.
Shenmue is getting an anime on Adult Swim is a sentence that I just read in 2022. What's
I think it's
going
also
on?
going to be on Crunchyroll as well.
Sega NFTs, Final Fantasy porn in the Italian Senate, and Shenmue is getting an anime on Adult Swim. It is 2022. We're here, people.
We made it.
Strauss Zelnick, CEO of Take-Two. Zelnick. What did I say?
I don't even know what you said.
Strauss Zelnick, CEO of Take-Two, says the problems at the launch of GTA Trilogy were a glitch and have been resolved. Told CNBC that the release has done, quote, just great for the company.
I bet it has, you massive dick.
Yeah, I bet it has to. This garbage we released duped millions of idiots.
And according to the player base, the glitch has not fully been resolved yet. So I don't even know what the fuck he was talking about.
I don't fucking know either.
He was still bathing in Zynga money, I guess.
Which brings us to a topic at hand. This episode is entitled The Trouble with Shmups. And we're going to talk about shmups and the people who play them. Well, I'm going to explain the trouble, okay? It's what the name of that. You got to give me a minute.
Is it like the trouble with tribbles?
Well, it's similar in that there are so many, and they're not quite notable enough to give us any real content. So we just kind of have to lump it all together. Really, this is an excuse for us to talk about shmups, why shmups in general are hard to cover on the show.
Yes.
And then we're just going to do a top 10. It's just a top 10, Saturn.
It's not even a top 10. It's just a here's 10.
Well, here's 10. Okay, so let's say, what is the trouble with shmups?
Yes.
Here's the deal. We love shmups.
We do.
It is one of the few genres that we both unequivocally just enjoy and love. Even ones that are kind of bad, we're both like, yeah, that's fine. I'll play that one.
I'll absolutely play Mobile Light Force. Thank you.
I'll still play Abadox.
Yeah.
So shmups are kind of by design light on narrative depth and often, at least compared to more complex action games, especially these days, light on mechanics.
Yeah.
So the interesting part of a shmup is how you interact with it, and that's what defines a lot of the experience. And it's harder to talk about that in the context of a show other than just providing a play-by-play.
Well, sometimes also the presentation, the atmosphere, the environment will kind of differentiate it from other shmups.
Right.
But only while you're actively looking at it. When you try to describe it to someone else later, they're like, well, isn't that also just Gradius? And you're like, yeah, but it's inside of like a giant monster or something.
Right. It's Gradius, but there's guts. And you're like, is that better? Yeah. Why? I don't know. but it is.
Well, now there's a ripple laser.
And a lot of a good shmup, any good shmup is going to be kind of light on complexity,
right?
Which isn't to say that it's overly simplistic, but games that are this fast paced and this score based and this achievement based, you don't want them to be extremely deep,
right?
And some of the best ones are light on even things like power-ups, boss interactions, enemy variety. I mean, look at Galaga. Yeah. We could talk about the history of Galaga all day long. Yeah. But it's hard to talk about the game of Galaga for very long at all.
But sometimes they suck up your ship, and then you can get it back.
And you can get 2 ships.
You have 2 ships.
And so it introduces this problem where like something like Gradius, for example, and we did an episode on Gradius, but mostly we just talked about the whole series overview.
Yeah.
Even when we covered Raiden, we did the whole series overview because we love talking about these games and we want to talk about these games.
Right.
But on paper, describing the differences in an audio format between Gradius, Salamander, and Raiden doesn't seem like a lot.
Well, the bullets are 4 pixels.
When you play them, they're so just dramatically different.
Right.
But when you're describing them, it's like if you've ever known someone that was really into heavy metal, and I mean like that real, like the kind of metal that you hear and you're just like, it's just noise, It's just immediately a man throat screaming and 50 electric guitars. And you're like, I don't know. And then he's like, all right, okay, so listen to this. Okay, now listen to this. And then what about this? And you're like, is it not the same song 3 times? What is it?
Okay, quick sidetrack. I knew that guy like 15 years ago. He was a manager of mine at a video game store, and he was so into that like throat metal. And one time I was in his car, he was driving me to his house, and like it's one song that I can't tell what the hell they're saying, and then another song where I can't tell what the hell they're saying, and then You Got the Touch.
It's a hell of a playlist. Yeah. I will say I love metalheads. They're always habitually the nicest people in the world. I don't know what it is about hardcore metal that just attracts really nice people.
Right.
But that's a lot of how shmups feel, where there's all this depth here, but it's hard to see and it's hard to describe. You just kind of have to feel it, right?
Much like metalheads, there's a lot of depth here.
much like metalheads. So a lot of it is it's hard for us because I think we like doing, like our last episode was Clock Tower, and I think we like doing episodes where we can sit down and just kind of talk about a game that we like.
Yeah.
And that's real hard to do with shmups.
Right.
We have done it before for some of the bigger, more complex ones, but even ones like going back to our Radiant Silvergun episode, I remember that one, we were kind of like, man, there's just not a whole lot to say.
Right.
You know, for a shmup, once you cover the basic mechanics, so much of the game is just mastering and interacting with those basic mechanics that...
Like, you can talk about individual bosses if that game even has individual bosses.
Yeah, you look at something like Gradius, and it's like, well, it has bosses, but...
But it's that same thing.
It's not really much to say about them. And shmups are kind of weirdly mysterious in the realm of video games.
Yeah.
Many of them have almost nothing in the way of development information.
Presumably because they're all made by the same two guys in a closet somewhere.
I you know, some of them. I kind of wonder.
All the cave ones, I'm pretty sure.
And so it reaches this era, and I know that for non-shmup fans, a lot of times looking at shmups, which I don't think we've said, are shoot 'em ups. They're space shooty games. Yeah. And we've done, to be fair, we've done a lot. I think we've done more episodes on shmups than we have any other one topic.
Nice.
We have to have. We've done Shmup Boot Camp. We did 2 episodes on just shmups on the TurboGrafx 16.
Our first episode ever was just cute 'em ups.
Yeah, we did cute 'em ups.
Subgenre of shmups.
We've done Gradius, we've done Raiden, we've done the Guardian Legend, we've done so many shmups.
I think we did Gradius 5 specifically at one point.
Yeah, because we just want to talk about them, but it's getting harder and harder because it's really difficult to just cover an individual game.
Yeah.
Also, many shmups fall into specific subgenres like cute 'em ups or bullet hell, and a lot of that means that when we're explaining the game mechanics, they're already known quantities to shmup fans.
Right.
And so a lot of gameplay information is quickly conveyed and disseminated with phrases like, "Oh, it's a light bullet hell cute 'em up with the Gradius upgrade system."
Oh, okay.
And we can so easily, I kind of am down too. I'm kind of for that. You know, and it's so we can so quickly describe them via this shorthand
I think that's a description of Otimidius, actually.
Yes, it is a description of Otimidius. So you know, all this to say that we just want to talk about shmups.
If you just take shmup descriptions, mix them together, you're going to accidentally describe a game.
Yeah, basically. You know, there you go. So really, it's just kind of an excuse for us to do a top 10 shmups because we want to talk about these games and we want to tell you more about them.
I don't even know if this is top 10 because I don't know that the ones that I picked are necessarily my absolute top. It's just ones that I think that you should play that I think merit ended up on this list.
And I do have another episode of notes pulled up. This is from November 13th, 2020. This is our episode Shmup Boot Camp, wherein we also listed games that we thought you should play.
Yeah. So we've done this before, is what you're saying.
So in a way, it wasn't really top. This was just like, hey, what games do we think you should start the genre? If you're like, I've never played a shmup, where should I go?
That's better.
And this is kind of more
that's good because if we had already done this before, we'd have to take this opportunity to pivot into N64 Part 3.
The only thing we could, or Sunsoft again.
Yeah.
But I am just interested to see how this list is different. This is more my list of like when I'm sitting down to play a shmup, what am I going to play, and why am I going to play that? And I do want to start with my first pick, which is Crimson Clover, which was on my game recommendations list from November 2020, and it has actually gone higher on that list. This is developed by Yotsubane, published by Yotsubane and Dejisa. I think Yotsubane is a person.
Isn't it Dejika?
Sure, all right.
I've never known. Anyway.
Dejika the Last Dinosaur. That's the one. I think.
Now that'll be in my head for the rest of the day.
I think Yotsubane is like one person
in a closet. We already mentioned that.
And Crimson Clover, which I want to give credit to, was recommended to me by Marlo in our Discord. He was like, if you played Crimson Clover, it's amazing. And now I recommend it every time we talk about shmups. I talk about Crimson Clover. This was released in 2011 in Japan and arcades in 2013. The two versions you'll find now are Crimson Clover on World Ignition, which is on PC, came out in 2014, and Crimson Clover World Explosion, which just came out in 2020 on Switch and
they
PC.
really ramped it up from an ignition all the way to an explosion. Yeah,
they just went straight to it. So Crimson Clover World Explosion, which almost sounds like an 80s pop song. So what I love
sounds like a follow-up to Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
It does, right? What I love about Crimson Clover is that it is a bullet hell game through and through. But because of the break gauge system that it uses, wherein you are constantly picking up huge amounts of items, which you see in these bullet hell games, that are charging this big break gauge that makes you virtually invincible while it's on.
Nice.
Because you're doing that, if you time that appropriately, you never really have to interact with the really hardcore pixel jumping type of bullet hell pattern dodging that a lot of these games demand.
Yeah.
And I do think this might be my personal favorite, and still, even from late 2020, my recommended introduction to like true bullet hell shmups. If you want to jump in here, another one I would put on this list of like just really good bullet hell games is Dodonpachi.
Oh yeah.
I go back to Dodonpachi a ton, and it is just a blast. And both these games, very simple mechanics.
Yeah.
And I really wish we could do an episode on Crimson Clover, but it's 5 levels. I just...
What you're saying is it would take less time to play the entire game than it would to listen to us talk about it for an hour.
And this is true of a lot of the games on our lists.
Unfortunately.
I would love to do an episode on Crimson Clover. I just don't think there's the content for it. I don't think we can get it out there. So I'm just going to mention it for a few minutes all the time.
Yeah.
And it'll eventually, Pablo will just make a Crimson Clover supercut.
He'll make the Crimson Clover supercut, which then you'll realize is just you saying the same thing over and over again.
Yeah. What's yours?
So I'm going to be a basic bitch and go to Radiant and Ikaruga, just to get these out of the way, put them on the list.
Which we've done episodes on both of these now.
Correct, yeah. They're both developed by Treasure, released in arcades in 98 and 2001 respectively, with Saturn and Dreamcast ports eventually, and then eventually we got them on other platforms internationally. They're fine. They are I would say that Ikaruga is possibly more difficult for a newcomer to approach.
Yeah.
Which I think is unfortunate because it was the first of the two that came out internationally. Radiant, I think, is a little friendlier, but even then, they're both they might be mean by today's standards.
I want to say that these games did not even get anywhere close to my list. And I would not put them on my list. And I think the more time goes on, the less I like both of them.
Huh.
I've gotten to a point where I don't play either anymore. Just because I
still go back to both of them, actually.
When I do play them, they just feel so mean and so hateful and so hard that I just don't find any fun.
I think it's just that I played so much of them back in the day that a lot of it is ingrained in me at this point. So I can push past some of that meanness.
I think for me, it's also a thing of they're both long. By shmup standards, they are very long.
Yes, they feature save files. They are so long,
and it's one thing I've noticed. One thing I like in my shmups, barring some exceptions, is that I don't want them to be too long. Please don't make them too long.
One thing I like about the console ports of Radiant is the leveling system. Because the arcade version has it too, but on the console versions, you can save your levels when you die, so that when you resume, you're still at the same level you were before.
True.
Which means that you can kind of grind your way past some of the challenge, not all of it.
Allegedly.
It takes some time.
Yeah.
You better be willing to commit. But, I still think they are definitely notable. And they were at the top of a lot of lists for so long that it's worth seeking them out if you haven't. If you somehow haven't yet.
Yeah.
It's still worth checking them out.
my next one is Jamestown. And I don't know that I've had the opportunity to talk about Jamestown on any of our shmup episodes.
I don't believe so. You may have mentioned it during your segment one time, but that's it.
So this is actually new shmup content that we have. It's not just us rolling around in the same pile of 12 games going on and on about it.
You're not allowed to do that.
Jamestown was developed and published by Final Form Games. Came out on Windows, Mac, and Linux in 2011. There have been effectively 2 other versions. There's the Gunpowder, Treason, and Plot DLC, which adds 4 ships. And then now the version you'll find usually is Jamestown Plus, which adds 2 new levels, new ships, alters a bunch of the alt work. I believe it includes the DLC and has a remastered soundtrack.
Nice.
And Jamestown, as I'm sure you can guess, like many shmups, is set in 17th century British colonial Mars.
Oh, perfect. That makes all the sense.
And it features like weird, sort of interdimensionally Lovecraftian sort of creatures.
Well, now you got my attention.
So it's this weird, like, goofy, faux colonial on Mars with tentacle monsters.
Huh.
And it just aesthetically... one, it's a Western shmup, so the art style is very kind of Western indie game. 2, nothing else is even close to this game's aesthetic. It's very unique in the shmup space. And 3, I love the mechanic in this. It is called vaunting. They have a vaunt mode. After you collect enough gold, so similar to Crimson Clover, I'm seeing a theme here. Every time you kill an enemy, huge amounts of gold explode out of them. Mm-hmm. And you can vaunt, which creates a shield, increases your firepower, and multiplies your score. So much like in Crimson Clover, strategic vaunting helps you overcome the kind of more bullet helly sections of the game. And I'm literally just now, as I'm reading this, realizing that that's the common thread. Whenever I love a shmup, I'm like, well, it's got this thing that lets you avoid the bullet hell parts. But what I really, really, really love about Jamestown, and this is my favorite part, and anyone that has tried to play multiplayer shmups on anything that is not a console will understand. Shmup ports are bad.
Usually.
Every Japanese shmup that has a PC port is it's just bad. It's just going to be bad. It's going to be barely functional. It's going to have shitty video options. This one is built for PC. It's super compatible. It runs great. My favorite thing is you can use any input option that you have connected.
Yeah.
And it was the first PC game that I remember sitting down, plugging in 3 different types of controllers, getting to the menu select screen, and it just has each controller hold down a button. It recognizes what controller you're using and just pops you in the game on whatever ship you want.
Nice.
And at this point, Jamestown Plus has so many different ships, so many different levels, so many different difficulties that it is actually a really long shmup by shmup standards. You know, I think it's like 9 levels. And it's just so good. The soundtrack is fantastic. The art design is really, really good. And the Vaunt mode is just a blast. And it's got a lot of different kinds of ships to try all sorts of different stuff. It's very wide, not deep, which I like in my shmups.
Nice.
Because you don't want them to be too overly complex.
Right.
And
right.
so Jamestown is very high recommendation from me. And I don't know why I've never thought to talk about it until like right now.
Nice.
What do you got?
I'm going to go with Lightning Force Quest for the Dark Star, which for all of our friends outside of the U.S. is just Thunder Force 4.
Yeah.
But here in the U.S., for some reason, Sega felt the need to call it Lightning Force. Not Lightning Force.
As you
Lightning. As in, makes things lighter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I assume it was a typo, but it's one they've stuck with for 30 years.
It's a thematic choice.
Yeah, it was developed by Technosoft, published on the Genesis or Mega Drive in 92. They did re-release it finally on the Switch in 2018. If you've played Thunder Force, it is a refinement of that. It's basically, in my opinion anyway, the best of what the Thunder Force theme was. And you know, when you first are playing the game, it feels like just a standard horizontal shooter, but what was interesting at the time anyway was you could slightly move off the screen, either up or down, and sometimes you'd either find some extra enemies that you could take out, or you might find a hidden power-up or something, which for me was really exciting in the early to mid 90s. Now that's, not all that exciting. But for the time, it was a pretty impressive shmup, especially for one that was first party and actually had some marketing budget behind it. Also, one thing that I have found that I really like in shmups, as I was writing notes for this, I realized that it is a thing that I like, is being able to have multiple weapons at a time. And
I love
being able
that
to cycle through them.
We've done so many shmup episodes. We have talked about, just quantity-wise, if you take how many different shmups we've talked about on these different anthology episodes,
right,
we have to have talked about dozens of them.
I'm sure.
And we are still recognizing things, common threads that we enjoy in this genre that we've played so much for so long and talked about for so many hours. And we're still like, I think I like this thing.
Yeah.
I'm not sure yet.
I've been playing shmups for at least 35 years now, probably longer if you count like early shmups like Galaga or Phoenix or things like that. And there's still stuff where I'm like, I think that's what I like about it. So, But yeah, I do really dig on being able to have multiple weapons and being able to choose what to use instead of picking up a specific weapon and being stuck on that until the next power-up shows up, which I play plenty of those kinds of games, but I think in the end, I really like it when you can have all of them at once.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Didn't this one get the Sega Ages treatment?
Yes, on Switch in 2018.
Yes. The whole time you're describing it, I was like, man, it sounds like that one Sega Ages shmup that I played that was real good. And then it was slowly dawning on me that it is that game.
It is that game. That is, in fact, I believe the only time it's been re-released. I don't think it's come out on any of the prior Sega collections.
I think Thunder Force 3 had some more releases, but I think it's the only Thunder Force 4 release. Because Thunder Force 3 was on... Did that get a 3DS? I think it got a 3DS port,
didn't it? May have gotten a 3DS collection as well. And also... Sega fairly recently bought up what is left of Technosoft and the rights to the Thunder Force series. So I'm hoping that not only they put out a collection of all of them at some point, but maybe they could even see it in their hearts to try to make another one.
Yeah.
It won't happen. But,
Our next pick, I'm just going to call it the Gradius or the Konami category.
Yeah.
Because we both picked Konami games here.
I intentionally put a Konami game because you chose one of the games that I would have chosen, and I was angry.
I picked Salamander, and Salamander was on my shmup boot camp list, and it is still on my list of shmups that I go play when I feel like playing shmup. Developed and published by Konami, original version 1986, a million other versions on like everything else in the following years. Also known as Life Force, but don't confuse it with the NES version of Life Force that just kind of is a different game.
Kind of known as Life Force. Those are technically different games, but then also it was released in some regions under the name Life Force just to confuse people.
We did a whole episode on Salamander and how awesome it is, and I'm really proud of that episode and proud that we got a whole episode out of Salamander. So go listen to that. But if you've bounced off Gradius, and Gradius is kind of in my category with Ikaruga and Radiant in that I go back to it less and less and less.
How dare you?
Because Salamander is the Konami shmup I'm looking for. Because and then I said this back in 2020. In Gradius, you hit these death spirals, right? That you just don't hit in Salamander. And that one little tweak, makes all the difference for me.
Yeah, Salamander has always been one of my favorites, and I take credit for introducing you to it because you had only played Life Force on NES.
Yes, and I was like, I know that's Salamander. Why would I explore it any further?
And that game is mean and hateful.
Yes,
whereas real Salamander is not, and I love Salamander. No, since you aggressively took Salamander before I could.
Aggressively. To be fair, you were writing notes, and then I jumped in the document, and you messaged me, and you're like, "You're fucking up all my formatting, so I'm just gonna wait till you're done." And I was like, first pick.
So I'm gonna go with Parodius, which I also love.
Yes.
Also, as you mentioned, Konami. But I'm just lumping in the whole series here, so it was released between 88 and 97 on various platforms. It's basically just a parody of Gradius, so they did sprinkle in some Twin B for good measure. We did do an episode on Sexy Parodius. So
Sexy Parodius on the Saturn is
excellent.
So good.
There's several Parodius games on the Saturn, so if you just want to dabble in Parodius, you've got your choice there. And they all get increasingly ridiculous as the series went on. It's silly, it's dumb. It's still basically Gradius at its core, but there's enough silly, dumb shit that makes me excuse some of Gradius's faults. Like you mentioned, the death spiral. In a standard Gradius game, that would just make me so angry that I turn it off because I'm never going to get to that level of power up again. Right. But then in Parodius, you might immediately get a bell that just fills the screen with garbage text, which kills everything and allows you that time to build back up while still showing you the dumbest shit possible on the screen. And I appreciate that. I'm always a fan of parody. I will almost always take parody over the real thing, no matter the genre. However, it did eventually lead to another Konami Gradius parody series, Otimidius, which you should not play. Don't do that. You'll only feel shame for playing it because they just made Gradius but with underdressed anime girls, and it's not even a fun game.
Yeah.
And it's poorly made because you can barely see what's going on the screen at any given time. So
I don't know why I thought you were going to say you can barely see the anime girls. I was like, Saturn, just take it elsewhere.
I don't care about that. No, you can. They tried to make every little character so highly detailed and it's all 3D modeled, but they also put a very busy background behind it.
Yeah.
So you can't tell what is going on at any given time. So it's not even fun to play. So don't play Otimidius. Play Parodius.
My next one is a game we've talked about a lot of times.
Another game I introduced you to, for the record.
Yes, you did, and it was on your Shmup Bootcamp list, but I picked first this time. It's Blazing Lasers. I still return to Blazing Lasers.
It's because it's excellent.
And I found out that Gunhead, the Japanese name of Blazing Lasers, is a movie. And it is like...
That's why they don't use the name Gunhead in any re-releases of the game, because Hudson doesn't have the rights to that name anymore.
And the movie is like a famously bad B movie.
Yeah, it bombed so hard that they no longer want to use that license.
I can't remember who. I think it's James Cameron cites it as like his favorite bad movie. I was getting into like low budget Japanese 90s cinema a little while back because of course I was.
Of course
that's the weird
like
fucking shit.
Yeah.
Then I was watching what was I watching? I was watching the 90s live action Gritty Cicada reboot OVA on Tubi TV.
Gross.
And so I'm like just reading stuff and everyone keeps mentioning Gunhead and I'm like, that's fine, it's the same name as Blazing Lasers because it's the West. Yeah. Anyway, developed by Compile, published by NEC and Hudson.
Actually made 2 Gunhead games.
Did they?
There was the PC Engine Gunhead, which was Blazing Lasers and is a good game. And then there's Famicom Gunhead, which is an attempt to make a strategy RPG on the Famicom, but make it way too dialogue heavy.
Yeah.
And I do not recommend that one.
Released July 7th, 1989 on the TurboGrafx 16/PC Engine. This uses what I call the alternative weapon style power-ups, meaning that you'll see various main and sub-weapon drops floating around the screen, and repeated pickups of the same weapon will increase your attack power. Picking a different weapon resets it and switches you to that weapon.
Right.
I put this in the same camp as like the Raiden games.
Or Star Soldier.
That alternative weapon. Whenever I want to play one of these types of shmups, I always come back to Blazing Lasers. It's just a really solid, fast TurboGrafx shmup that's worth checking out.
Yeah.
It's
worth getting
really
a
like
TurboGrafx emulator if you don't already have one.
Yeah.
Just to play Blazing Lasers.
I would say that in this alternative weapon shmup thing, I would put this right kind of next to, but a little bit ahead of Raiden 3. Which is the best of those games, in my opinion. But yeah, Blazing Lasers was good, still good. Please play Blazing Lasers. I'm going to keep talking about it on every shmup episode.
One of us will, anyway. Depends on who starts the notes first.
Yeah.
Well, since you took Blazing Lasers, I'm going to go with Gate of Thunder, which is developed by Red, published by Hudson or TTI on the Turbo Duo in 1992. Here in the West, it's only available on that multi-disc that also has Bonk's Adventure and Bonk's Revenge that came bundled with the Turbo Duo here in the West. The story doesn't make any sense. Please do not pay attention to the story of Gate of Thunder. It is nonsense. But it's another one of those ones where you can swap between your weapons whenever you want to, and you basically have them all, and you can power them up as you go along. If you max them all up, picking up any other power up will basically act as a bomb by having this giant wave of energy emit from you. It is not easy. It is. I would say it's pretty tough. Bordering on unfair at times.
I was gonna say I don't like this one because of how tough it is.
However, for me, just as far as nostalgia goes, this game was such a spectacle when I first saw it, because it was one of the first CD-based games that I saw that was not just like FMV, and I was so amazed by like nice-looking shmup with incredible CD quality soundtrack.
Yeah.
And it's got some good butt rock on there. If you like butt rock.
Also, you get Bonk saying Gate of Thunder in a very serious voice.
Gate of Thunder. Only on the Western release. If you play the Japanese version, you don't get that, which is why you have to play the Western version.
I'm changing my final pick.
Yeah?
I had it as... on the fly. I had it as the Guardian Legend. Which we very recently did an episode on.
And you're just going to steal my last pick.
I'm just going to take yours. Also, I'm going to take your final thoughts.
That's good.
And then I'm going to come to your house and wear your skin. I'm just going to become you. It escalated quickly, I know, but that's how these things go. I had the Guardian Legend listed, but I think it's a little antithetical to my list, because in my head, my list was when I go to play a shmup, what am I sitting down to play? When I'm just like, hey, I've got 10 free minutes, I feel like playing a shmup, what am I going to put in? And it's not the Guardian Legend. I just have recently played and thought a whole lot about the Guardian Legend. I still maintain it's a very fun, diverse game with a full selection of weapons. It can be a little padded at times, but there is a shmup-only mode. But I made this list, and then you put in the honorable mentions section, you wrote, I can't believe Justin didn't put Fantasy Zone.
That's true.
And as soon as you did, I was like, yeah, it's got to be Fantasy Zone. It can't be anything but Fantasy Zone. And the reason I pulled away from it a little bit, and the reason why this was not on my list of recommended games to start with on our Shmup Bootcamp episode. Yeah. Oddly enough, my final pick was Legendary Wings, which I'm going to go ahead and...
Game. That's a fun game. I'm not going to say it's an easy game.
The NES port?
I haven't played the NES port in a while.
Oh,
I was playing it on my Xbox not long ago.
I don't know what I had going on in November 2020, but I was being very kind that month. It was a kind month for me. But not now. Anyway, it's got to be Fantasy Zone. And the reason I pulled away from putting it on the list is because Fantasy Zone, the arcade version of Fantasy Zone, and most versions of Fantasy Zone, are some of the most brutally difficult shmup levels you'll ever play, and not difficult in that traditional shmup way, difficult in that really just kind of unfair sort of way.
Sometimes the controls feel just a little too loose, and when you try to just barely tap left, you've suddenly gone half a screen and right into an enemy.
But Fantasy Zone is such a stellar cute-em-up. It has such wonderful level and character design. It has such an amazing the soundtrack I still listen to, like on Spotify, just like around my house.
Yeah.
So I specifically don't want to put the 1986 version of Fantasy Zone on here. I want to specifically put the 2014 3DS version of Fantasy Zone and include the sequel while I'm changing all the rules at the last minute anyway. I might as well. So in 2014, the 3DS got 3D Fantasy Zone Opa Brothers, which added adjustable difficulty settings, the ability to save. You can switch to the Japanese and US versions. There's a bunch of fun features. And you can also play as the main character, Opa's brother, Oopa.
Nice.
Who is the inverted colors. Or no, wait, he's blue on top. Is he blue on top, green on bottom? Opa's red on top, green on bottom.
Yes.
There you go. That's their only distinguishing factors. It's a complicated family. Yeah. Anyway, the 3DS version does not alleviate the difficulty completely, but it does make it a little easier. In the sequel, Tears of Opa, man, that might be... as much as we like doing these top 10 episodes, you and I both don't really like ranking stuff.
It's true.
We'll talk about like, hey, here's a bunch of stuff in whatever category that I like that you should play. Here's what, I think Tears of Opa Opa on 3DS might be my like number one shmup of all time.
Nice.
It is just, oh damn it, it's so good. It is just so good. It's fantastic. It's got this wonderful money system where you can give yourself cash to start the game with out of a bank. So all the cash you get whenever you finish a level, it goes in this big bank that you keep at all times. Yeah. And when you start a level or start the game over or get a game over, you can give yourself cash out of that. And eventually you can unlock infinite lives mode. It's just, it takes what is effectively a 30-minute long, if that, shmup that didn't really see the light of day kind of at all. I don't think Tears was really on much. It was on Master System, Master
System, and I believe arcade. I think that's it until recent collection.
MSX. It was on the MSX, apparently. But yeah, and really in its original incarnation was not nearly as good. Tears of Opa Opa on 3DS really, really, really just ramps everything up to 10. It is just such a fantastic shmup, and it just breaks my heart to pieces that it is on the 3DS forever and never to see the light of day anywhere else. Yeah. It's if I'm sitting down to play, I keep my 3DS charged for this game. Just in case I don't play anything else on it. Yeah. It is just both the 3DS versions are great, but Fantasy Zone 2 on 3DS is out of this world, next level good shmup. Nice. It's perfect. It's fantastic.
Have you played the Master System game Zillion?
I know of Zillion, but I don't think I've played it.
So it's a, as far as I'm concerned, a somewhat forgettable platformer. But Sega made an anime based on it to try to help sell it in Japan. Mm-hmm. And in addition to all the characters being outfitted with the light phaser from the actual light gun for the Master System that isn't even supported by the game.
Can you explain to me? I'm sorry. Can you explain to me why the cover art that I'm sending to you now in our channel for Zillion on the Master System is a picture of a microwave?
Because you have to go into these bases and free your friends, and you interact with these little terminals that look like that.
Okay, I'm with you. Yeah. And they put that on the front of the game instead of the main
Sega
character.
Marketing.
Great.
So they made an anime based on it, and they're all equipped with Sega light phasers, and their companion is Opa Opa.
Really?
It's just Opa Opa from Fantasy Zone just floating around and giving them advice and helping them, and it's adorable.
Oh man.
I couldn't make it through a whole episode because I don't always get along with anime storytelling.
Yeah.
But man, just seeing an adorable little Opa Opa floating around behind these guys, it's great. Anyway.
There's an Opa Opa plush somewhere on planet Earth, and I'm going to find it, and I'm going to get it.
There's several, actually.
It's got to exist. What's your last pick?
My last one is going to be Star Parodier, which was almost called Fantasy Star Soldier when it almost released outside of Japan.
Yes.
Developed by Kaneko, published by Hudson on the PC Engine CD back in 92. It did get an international release on the Wii Virtual Console in 2008, completely untranslated. And it, like I had mentioned earlier, I just love parody games and parody everything. It is the parody of the Star Soldier series, but man, it is just brimming with charm. Star Soldier is already a game that I enjoy, and it has a similar power-up system to what you were talking about earlier, where you can power up one weapon and then grab a different one and then have to power that up. And it seems fairly simplistic by today's standards, especially with all the more modern shmups that have come out in the last 15-20 years. But I still enjoy Star Soldier, but Star Parodier is just, it's that same concept, but it is just oozing with personality. You can play as Bomberman, you can play as a PC Engine that shoots out CDs. It's just so adorable.
It's super cute.
Yeah, highly recommended. It
doesn't quite match Sexy Parodius for me as far as like goofy spectacle.
True,
but it has so much charm.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Let's fire through some honorable mentions. Yeah. Galaga almost made my list. Specifically Galaga 88.
Oh, I do love Galaga 88.
Because man, what a great version of Galaga. It's just I go play Galaga when I feel like playing Galaga, not when I feel like playing a shmup.
That's
fair. Because while Galaga is most definitively a shmup, you're a spaceship in space shooting bad guys.
Right.
It just doesn't quite have that what I'm looking for when I feel like playing a shmup.
I feel like shmups as a genre really got defined once they started adding scrolling.
Yes.
Those single screen proto shmup games like Space Invaders, like Galaga, like
Galaxian, Gardic.
Phoenix is another early one that I really enjoy.
Yeah.
Those have a different feel to them, even if they are kind of the same genre. They feel different enough just because there's no scrolling, there's less dodging, and there's generally less enemies coming into the screen. It's more that they stay on the screen. So it is definitely a different feel.
Neither one of us had any Darius games on our list.
I almost did. I really thought about it, but I opted out of it.
We also did not have any R-type games on our list.
That was intentional on my part.
I'm kind of with you when I've not played an R-type that I just really loved. I play them and I'm like, it's okay.
There's several R-types that I would say that I really enjoyed or had a lot of fun with, especially back in the day. I played so much Super R-type on Super NES.
Yeah.
But they're all just so mean. Every one of the games in that series are just cruel. I would say the least cruel is the 2 R-type final games. Even those aren't easy by any means.
Yeah.
But it's so prolific that I do feel it needs to be mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, most definitely. I could never. It's the what's it called? The little orb thing.
I don't remember what they call it.
The little orb thing that is quintessential to art, though it is what differentiates R-type from other shmups. I've never enjoyed it.
Yeah, it is definitely a different gameplay mechanic.
It's different enough that I'm like, it just doesn't. It doesn't.
The force.
I would put that in the camp of shmup gameplay that is just a little bit too complex. Yeah, it's just a little bit too much thought and maneuvering to go into it, so that I'm so worried about it that I feel like I'm not just getting to shoot things.
However, if you can find somebody who is an R-type expert and you watch them playing the game, it looks like a ballet the way that they are dancing around with that force. It is an excellent thing to see. But yeah, I agree. It is a bit too tough for me to get too far in it. However, if you had asked someone, especially somebody in the West in like 93, 94, hey, what are the arcade space shooters? They're going to say, oh, you mean like Gradius or R-Type? Because they were that prolific. It was, those are the series, and then everything else is like Gradius or R-Type. So,
yeah. As far as final thoughts, it's funny. This minor plug, we have a show called After Hours where we just discuss what we're going to be doing the following month.
True.
And I feel like every other month we're like, let's do a shmup. And then we spend 10 minutes going, I don't think we can do an episode on that. Yeah, I don't think we can do an episode on that. And then eventually we just get frustrated when we do one of these.
Yeah.
I do feel like shmups are in a sort of renaissance right now.
Yeah.
Because there is just so much of it hitting the Switch, hitting PC. We're getting so many collections there. I mean, Cotton has been rebooted.
I meant to mention that in the honorable mentions. There's a bunch of Cotton games available right now.
Like, it is crazy. What's that one company that with the red logo that has all those shmups that are coming out in collections? It's I can't think of it. Tip of my tongue.
Oh, Psycho.
Yeah, Psycho has a million shmups out right now. Yeah. Like, shmups are back in a big way right now.
Yeah.
In a way that
back in a niche way, but a niche way with some budget for once.
Much more available.
Yeah,
I guess. In a way that they haven't been for a couple of generations of hardware.
I would say at least since the PS1 era.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like for a while there, everyone kind of forgot about them. They still existed, but now they're everywhere. They're on everything.
Right.
It used to be back in the day, you had to buy a shmup-heavy system if you wanted to play them, and now it's like, no, they're just kind of on everything.
Yeah.
So it's a wonderful time to be getting into the genre. If you haven't, I'm really excited where they are. The franchises that are getting rebooted, the stuff that's getting re-released, I'm real happy to see it. And I'm happy that I still keep my arcade stick by my computer for when I want to play shmups.
Nice.
Because it's great. what do you got for final thoughts?
That's I'm on board with you.
Excellent.
I'm glad to see that it is coming back. I'm glad to see that we are having more games available. It is, like you mentioned, it is shocking to see Cotton of all things come back.
I know. What a weird.
I'll take it.
It'd be like if someone's like Sapphire 2. I'd be like, really? I mean, great, but really? What?
Right?
Wow.
But no, I'm very happy to see more of them. But it is difficult for us to talk about them.
Yeah, and, I wish.
I'm waiting for somebody to make the JRPG shmup game. Undertale was almost that, just because it had the bullet hell dodging.
Yeah.
I need one with actual shmup gameplay instead of just dodging, and that way I'll have a full episode to talk about something.
There you go. If you're listening out there and you're like, oh my god, they found another excuse to mention these same 30 shmups, then sorry. Hopefully this was exciting. We just wanted to talk about them some more because we like them.
Next time, just send us a list of the other 30 shmups we should be talking about, and we will play them.
Yeah, there you go. And then we'll play all those, talk about all those.
Yeah.
It'll be perfect.
Yeah.
Almost as perfect as our Patreon that you can find at patreon.com/Retro Warriors.
Yeah.
Where you can get the after hours, or not the after hours. It's after hours. I mixed up the names again with the after party. You get the Talking Wizards. Mm-hmm. You can get the uncuts.
That's true.
And they're there for you for money.
Talking Wizards is worth it just for the captions that are on each episode as they read, by the way.
In my head, I'm like, nobody ever reads these. And then I type them, and then someone always messages me. I do love Talking Wizards. What a wonderfully fun show to do. I love it. Might be my favorite show to record.
I see how it is.
I love this show as a thing. But Talking Wizards is just so fun to record because you just go in there with literally nothing. And then you're like, I don't know, we're going to talk about mummies. And then you just do that for an hour.
Let's talk about Mummies Alive.
Great. Oh, my God. I talk about Mummies Alive so much, and nobody ever knows what I'm talking about. And finally, someone that remembers Mummies Alive.
I don't. I only know it because all the times you mention it.
God damn it. Was so excited.
For that split second, you had hope.
For that one moment, I thought someone else watched Mummies Alive.
Nope.
It was radical 90s mummies. One of them had a backwards ball cap on. Anyway, go to our Patreon, please, and then you can be a wonderful donator, just like the following people. Burger Champ.
Justin made me buy 2 CRTs.
Craig C.
Neil Hayes.
Jurgen.
Brian Guido Hassan.
Elson Raves.
Pablo, play every copyrighted owned music for 10 full seconds. Pablo, please do not actually do that.
Your friendly local bioinformatician.
And Brian Kim.
Are all the patrons we want to thank for donating kindly to the show.
I love when the last one is a normal name. That's always the best for me.
We want to thank Pirate Steve's Butt Emporium and Bill. Thank you. Or when it's a part of a song and then a normal name.
Right.
Anyway, thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week. And as always, let us cling together.